I'm 67 years old, and I'm here in this area. I've been here since 1986 in the Sedona area, and I was brought here by visions, like many people. My life, I look at the things that have led me on the path that I'm on now, and have been on, and spirit, I think, is the most important thing, and spirit encompassing a person's connection to their higher self. I think we go up in levels. We have this body, we go up and up and up through consciousness, and most of us, I think, unfortunately, on the planet don't get beyond this physical part. But I have been truly blessed in my life with different guidances, I guess you would say, gifts from spirit that have allowed me to move higher in the circles of light that we are. One of the things I thought about was when I was reading your little blurb about your project, one of the things you said, you wanted to know what has changed a person. And my view on that, I really thought about this, and I don't think anything has changed a person. I believe that we are the essence of the creator of life, however you view and name that, and we retain that, forever. However, we do have life experiences, and we can grow, but really, what I feel is that pure essence that is not changeable, that is connection, that is light, that is love, all those beautiful things. So my life, I've had so many interesting experiences with spirit, with guidance, with different things that have directed me where I've gone. I was married. I have 2 sons. When I was, I guess I was maybe about 5 months pregnant with my first son, my husband and I went for breakfast. We were listening to a radio show that we listened to, kind of a community station. And on this station, there was a speaker, and he was talking about an experience that he had had, and that he was given spiritual information, and was putting this into a book. And he was inviting the listeners to come to the place where he was living, he and his wife, and that he was doing teachings there. So, long story short, we did go to this class, and for myself, it's people I'm still acquainted with, still part of my life and very much involved. The person was Dr. James Hurtak and his wife Desiree Hurtak, and they are the founders of the Academy for Future Science. So I had that as my foundation, and it always will be, has been. It's very strong in me. But as I walked through life, because of having children, I still would pray. I would still ask, how do I be of service? I think maybe a lot of young mothers have that same, thing. It's like you've got 2 little ones, and what do you do? How do you do your spiritual practice? Of course, it's your children that you're taking care of. But I really was called to a different level, which really was a struggle for me in my life. And Spirit would work with me in my sleep. As circumstances came, I had to leave my marriage, and my husband took my sons. It was the best thing for them, in my opinion, so he raised them the second part of their life. And I went on. I was having a lot of difficulties in my life, anxiety. I was having dreams of a fire that would it was a repetitive dream. It kept getting closer and closer and closer and closer. And finally, at the point where I did make that change in my life, that dream went away. It's nothing I did lightly, and to this day, it is something that is a very jagged part of my heart. I'm still, in good relationship with my sons, but it's a bit distant. In that time, I spent a lot of time with my kids. I was there every weekend, every holiday. It's not like I just left them. I couldn't do that. But I did move on, and I began having visions of Native American type ceremonies and songs and different things, and I was a bit baffled by that. So when I came here, I didn't have anything, really, and I didn't have a job, I didn't have a place to stay. Well, things kept opening up. It was interesting. I stayed in a back room of this lady's house. She was kind to me. I had a cat who had just had kittens, and she welcomed us all in. And I was there, and I was still praying and maybe reading some books on Native American things. And I was laying there one evening, and I had this weird feeling. It was summertime, but where I was sleeping was on a floor by a sliding glass door, and I kept hearing this music outside and like drumming, and I thought, well, this is really weird. And I'd open up the door, nothing there. Close the door, go back to my reading. Not too much later, drums, music, singing, open the door. It wasn't there, and I thought, I don't understand this. Is this inside of me? And I got up the next morning, and there was a Sunday paper that came to the ladies' home, and on the front page, it said, Big Mountain Sundance, like this weekend, was happening. And so it hit me. It was one of those aha moments. I was hearing that Sundance ceremony. I'd never been to a Sundance ceremony, never done anything in that Native American path vibration other than have a calling. I went to this Sundance ceremony as a supporter, and that's someone who is on the outside of the circle and kind of helps maintain the camps, but you're there for the ceremony as well. And I went for a couple of years, all new experience to me. I was still single, I wasn't with anyone. And one time I went, and there was a lady next to me in the circle that's around the ceremony, and we chatted a little bit during the break, and her son was out there dancing, and so we talked about that. The next day, I was looking at the tree of life, which is in the center of the circle. Colorful, tobacco-filled cloths, prayer ties we call them, and other things up in that tree. And I had a vision of this man's face at the top of the tree, and he was looking at me, and he took his finger and he pointed at me like this, and you're kind of in ceremony, but you're also in your head, you're going, what the heck? And he was then pointing into the circle, and he told me basically that you in the circle. And I kind of brushed it off as my own mind. And the last day of the dance, there's a big feast, and this lady who had been next to me was behind me in line, and I said, oh, how'd your son do? We were just chatting. It was kind of a happy time, and she goes, yeah, she goes, it was really good. She goes, I had a funny thing happen. I saw a man's face up in the top of the tree. And I didn't say anything else, but that was my confirmation again that Spirit was talking to me, just like the friend angel at the door, that was part of my path. So through circumstance, I wanted to do everything correctly because I had so much love and respect for this Lakota way, which it was. I wanted to do it right if I was going to do that. And I did. I did more sweat lodge through the guidance of the people helping me. They said, well, you need to go on the hill and fast. You need to have a sacred pipe. I did all those things. I did a pilgrimage to Minnesota, to Pipestone in a blizzard, and thinking I was going to go dig pipestone out of the quarry, right? It wasn't happening. The only thing open was the visitor center, and I said, I'm looking for a piece of pipestone, and it was all native run, and she kind of looked at me funny. She goes, well, we have these little tiny pieces here for souvenirs, and I go, no, that's not what I want. I need a piece of stone. I want to carve a pipe. I've been guided to do that. She goes, well, there is a man in town that comes through from time to time. I can try to give you his phone number, see if you can meet up with him. And then she goes, oh, wait, there he is. And he was coming through the door. And so I met up with him, asked him. He said, yeah, I just went and I've got this stone, follow me over to my place. I took 2 years to make this sacred pipe. Never a power tool touched it, all by hand, even the stem, everything. And went for my fast with it on a cinder cone up in Flagstaff. I did 4 days. Didn't have the best of integrity of a person to put me up there, but I got up there. And it was very, very hard. It was in September, kind of cold. I got through it, but on the third day, the thunder and lightning storms came, and here I am on top of this hill, and I'm under my little blanket peeking out to see what's going on. Night fell, and it just got more and more and more intense. And finally, by morning when the sun came up, I was broken. I was broken down, and that's what it took to get me opened to that. And my prayer for this fast was, how do I use this pipe? What is it about? What is it? How do I know it? And what I saw that morning, there was of course clouds coming by, but they came, and the first thing I saw was a cross, a Christian cross. And I thought, well, okay, I'm up here, trying to learn about Lakota and native pipe, but there's this cross up there in the sky. It's like, okay, that's my vision. And the next thing I saw was the crown of thorns. And at that point, I felt my mother very strongly with me. She had passed into spirit. And I just thought, oh, and I had this insight, and it was that from the time we come into the body, we are suffering. We are suffering even though we may not know it, and we might be comfortable in life. It's about suffering, not so much in a bad way for many, that's how it is, but it's that suffering of being separated from God, from the Creator, from Spirit. That took me back to a lot of my teaching, instruction, wisdom from the first people I was speaking about, Dr. Hertek. So I'm thinking, okay, how do I do this? How do I, with so much love for those original teachings and so much love for the Lakota teachings, how do I bring those two together, because they're meant to be together on some level? The answer was, well, you don't. You don't join them. But you're holding the energy and the space for both. You're like a vessel, a reservoir. And, at that point I had learned quite a few songs and things, and again I would ask myself, why me? I'm this non-Indian woman, and yet I have these songs, and people would cry when I would sing in ceremony. So, and I knew I was out of the way, and that was Spirit coming through. But I asked for permission to somehow get these two things to talk to one another, because in the teachings of Dr. Hertek, it's a lot of Judaic teachings, also the Tree of Life, and I was very careful. I almost set that completely aside so that I could go completely into the Lakota. So I started to ask, how do I do this? I know there's one Tree of Life, but here's the vibration, this beautiful renewing of the earth, but it also goes straight up as well. How do I connect the two? And what I came to was that it's a mirroring of the two trees, that they would be there like this, each in their own vibration, and that there are doorways and gateways that happen when each is activated this one through ceremony, this through your intense prayer, and that maybe they could talk to one another and vibrate together. And because of being in ceremony, I wouldn't want to put my will on anyone else's prayer or dream or vision. So what I asked was that, could those doorways please just be open, and that could anyone who had eyes in the heart and the spirit to see them, and if they could get a communication about who we are and why we're here and the light that we are, that they could feel that, and maybe they could enter that doorway momentarily. I was told by that tree of life, the Lakota one in that ceremony, that there should be no more suffering. And I got very clear that, and it wasn't at that time, I had to go through a few things, but that the suffering is all in our perception. And so we, as human beings, we have a choice of how we look at things, always. We always have the choice and the option to pray. No one can take that away from us. They might confine us or silence us, but we can always pray. And that's our strength, and that's our connection to spirit. And so you never know in your life, you have to pay attention. You have to pay attention to those things around you. And, life is difficult. It's not easy to be here on the planet. And I feel every day such intense gratitude for my circumstance. But it's been a challenge to not be discouraged and to try to fall back on the two parts of myself, because I consider myself a split person in a way. I've got these two teachings and life paths that I just hold. I hold space for, I hold energy for, I hold love for. So I just appreciate my life. I've been so blessed, so blessed, and so many beautiful people from the time I was born to this day have crossed my path and offered me their gracious support, their insights, their teachings, their love.